New shirts, new dreams, and new disasters. The Premier League's first weekend gave us a front row seat to some jaw dropping debuts and a few that might already need some damage control. We're going to break down who stole the spotlight this weekend and who you're wishing for a do over. This is One Kick from Glory, and it's me and Matthew here live in the building. And we're going to be joined by Mark later on to share some of his thoughts about the weekend's games. The Premier League is back, and it's so exciting for it to be back. Before we get into talking about the games, the players, all the usual camaraderie, for you, Matthew, how do you feel to be back, knowing the Premier League is here again?
Happy to have something to do finally on the weekend. I missed Soccer Saturday. I missed watching the football on Prime and things like that, being back on the Sky in 215 games. And I must say, with the first weekend, they came out with a statement. But the amount of games we had on from Friday to Saturday to Sunday, they've made a very big statement on having more games for people to watch. So it's good. It's good to be back. I think the transfers have had a lot to tell with what's going on in the back, big moves, shock departures, kind of thing, like new expectations for the clubs. Some managers looking forward to a bright year, some maybe looking for improvement, some with looking over their shoulder a little bit. So I'm very happy for the season to be back, man. Very happy to see what's on the menu.
No, it's definitely been a very exciting starting week, and I think it kicked off with a game that definitely had a lot of moments to talk about, some very positive and one very negative. But before we talk about that, I guess just looking at the weekend as a whole, like what match really impressed you in terms of how it all went down?
You know what the match that stuck out to me the most? Because I didn't see it coming, with Sunderland and West Ham. That stuck out. We want to try and pay a bit more attention to the clubs that aren't necessarily ours. So I thought, over the weekend and just even having yesterday play out how we did yesterday as well with Leeds and Everton, I thought, let's just say as a whole. But I'm going to have to say, yeah, it's going to be Leeds, Sunderland, West Ham, because, a lot of people, clubs, fans alike, are probably having Sunderland to be straight back down. They don't have their, they haven't been to the Premier League, haven't been to the Premier League for a while. It's been a long time. It's been a long time in the Championship, teetering on the threads of League One as well. So to come back and do what they did, I had to almost look up at Sunderland with the last team to get promoted from the playoffs. But saying that, from their first game, they've certainly made a statement of, we're not just going to be, fodder. We're going to try our best to, fight and stay in this league, even if it means fighting tooth and nail to 17th. But it did not just show that how well they adjusted to the first game of the season. It also showed just how woeful West Ham were. And they're potentially going to be one team that's going to be looking over their shoulder. Graham Potter's going to have, he appears to have some, if he can't get it right in the next 2, 3, 4 games, he's got something that he's really got to watch. But credit to Sunderland, they did really, really well. Some good goals, establishing themselves as a club that's, especially the Stadium of Light anyway, that could be, because as a newly promoted team, I've always said, your home games are going to be the ones that matter the absolute most, because that's where you're creating the atmosphere. That's where you're going to be most intimidating. You got the fans on your side, and sometimes on those cold nights in the northeast, they're going to really test certain teams when they come to their ground, man. So, and they're that kind of club. They are that kind of club, just to make it the bitter, the cold. It's not going to be friendly. It's going to be hostile. Their fans are very, very passionate. They had a season a few years back on, was it Netflix or Prime? I can't remember which one it was.
Netflix, Sunday Until I Die.
That's the one. They're going to bring that kind of mentality, and now they're back in the Premier League as well. They're going to be, I'm not saying necessarily going to be one to watch, but they're not going to be. I don't see them being pushovers, or at least I hope they're not.
Yeah, I think it was interesting because their performance was really strong, and I know that in our first episode back for this season, we were looking at promoted teams and which ones might have a chance of surviving. I think Craig wanted Sunderland to stay up as well. I think we were looking at maybe Leeds might be a strong contender, and both those two teams got the wins. But I think it's just interesting to see how, one, we know the Stadium of Light, it's an intimidating ground, and we've seen that, when you have a one city club, the passion's just different. Newcastle, Leeds, Sunderland, there ain't no one else there to support. No. Unless you want to try and support a team that's further away, and then they'll disown you.
Yeah.
But there's just a different bond the fans have with the players, and it means more to them than for other teams, just a little bit more. And so you see that reflected, like just looking at the tifo they had before the game started, ready to set the atmosphere, the fans singing, and then the players rising to the occasion. Yeah. And also they had 8 players making their debut in this first game. That's a massive changeover. And yet, look at the performance. Like, really good performance. They really came out. And West Ham, you know, they usually, West Ham, Everton, two teams that usually start a bit slow in the league, and both teams didn't get the results they wanted this weekend. But what's really concerning for their fans is the fact that this might be another one of those draggy seasons where you're like, oh goodness, where's the hope going to come from? Everton might have a spark in Grealish. West Ham, they've got Bowen, they've got Paquetá, who's been cleared of all the betting stuff. So you'd hope that these guys can put it together. But the main concern, less so Everton, because this is typical. They will start slow, they'll pick it up. But West Ham is obviously the man in charge. You know, you had him at your club. I don't want to say something's broken, but I don't see the uplift from Potter.
Yeah.
And my concern is that it might not come. But how do you look at it from like just focusing on that Sunderland West Ham game? Obviously, massive praise for Sunderland and what they've done. You know, Xhaka backhand captain, Dan Ballard from Arsenal's Academy getting the goal as well, and they just were always on the attack. But from a West Ham perspective, how concerning is it that they've gone into a new season? They've not really got the reinforcements they wanted. They've got a few players here and there, but they just don't seem like they've shaken off the hangover of a poor end to the 24-25 season.
Yeah, last season was a very underwhelming. Obviously, they lost out from the season previous. They lost out with David Moyes. Did really well for them. Left them with the obviously the Europa Conference League, which gave them a lot of confidence and a lot of hope. And then they were put in the Europa. And Lopetegui. I know quite a few fans. They weren't happy with that. They weren't happy with Moyes leaving, but they understood why he went. But they really weren't happy with this with Lopetegui and having two managers that are underperforming, him and then Potter. I think Potter came back from like a redemption from what happened at Chelsea a couple of years back, and he's kind of like he's with West Ham. All right, you can argue that West Ham are smaller clubs than Chelsea, but the expectation is still kind of there. I mean, they're in back-to-back European competitions. Exactly. They're going to want to do probably something in the domestics. All right, over the years, they have lost some main players in Rice, and now a really big one looks like it could be Kudus. Guess Paqueta's back, but he's been out for a while. And they lost you know what? They've actually lost a real character in a fan favorite in Mikel Antonio after his accident. All right, numbers wise and things wise, you don't hold him up against some of the best players, but players like that are reasons why he loved the club, because when it came down to it, he would do what he did. He worked just as much. He worked just as hard in that run to Conference League as much as Rice did, as much as Bowen did, as much as a lot of them did. They had a good, decent team there, and they do have some decent players, but something needs to kind of something needs to spark very, very quickly for them, because they'll find themselves after 5 games. Let's say they go 5 games, they haven't got a win or barely even a goal. Questions will be answered, because the Premier League doesn't wait around for nobody. We've seen other managers been sacked for less. For some of them, I think, when Palace had 7 games, I think De Boer was gone. It's harsh. You could argue it's unfair and it's not right, but it doesn't mean that it can't happen. So for a West Ham point, I don't know who they're playing next. I mean, but they're going to need to try and maybe it's a case of it's one game, but you learn a lot from one game. So they need to get their players clicking. Like Callum Wilson's got to shake off a bit of that rust and find some of that form that kind of when he started at Newcastle, up until the point where he was completely and utterly phased out, he needs to find a bit more of that rhythm to kind of get clicking together, because he's experienced enough in the Premier League to know what's going down.
Well, let me reel off their next 5 fixtures. They've got Chelsea coming up at home, Nottingham Forest away. They've got Tottenham at home, Palace at home, and then Everton away. That's their next 5 games.
That's some tough games.
Very tough games.
Very tough games.
You're looking at it now, and the Everton game, that could be our first 6-pointer, early season relegation 6-pointer that's coming up, and definitely one that they would not want to be caught into. Since we're talking about Everton, that's another game that I do want to focus on at the top end of the podcast. Their game against Leeds, Monday Night Football. Leeds United, they're back. They're back in the big time, and they definitely deserve the win.
Yeah,
I can't really put it any other way. I think looking at the way how Leeds performed against Everton, it could and should have been at least 2-0 up from the first half.
Yeah,
they were all over them. They just lacked that cutting edge in the box, but they were doing everything else up into the box and around the box and putting the ball in the box. Just lacked that cutting edge. it's a credit to Everton that they managed to hold out to 0-0 for as long as they did, because actually first half was all Leeds, second half was majority Everton. Leeds had some counter-attacking moments where Everton really kind of should have gotten something out of it. But then, what's your take on the moment that led to the penalty, which led to the winning goal?
It's a bit of it's a kick in the teeth to how it's a kick in the teeth for Everton, who are, you know, still smarting because they've released a lot of players over time, and it released a lot of players who've been at the club for a while. You know, releasing someone like, you know, like a Decore, who was a majority of their goal scorer for someone last season, is obviously, it's a very unique position, the player that he was in. So filling that hole is obviously quite difficult. Yes, they got Grealish, and that's fine, that's fantastic, but you know, he hasn't played for a while, so he needs to get back into back into the swing of it. It's been a lot of controversies in the Premier League weekend. A lot of controversies from Friday all the way up to flaming yesterday. So I feel for them. I do feel about sorry for them how it went down. So, but at the end of the day, you still got to try and win it in your half, which is pretty much what they did in the second half. They got to try, you know, they had most of the time, and you don't want to get into that space, especially in the first game, and blaming certain events coming up to why you lost the game, because ultimately the table doesn't lie. So, but I'd be miffed if I was an Everton fan. I'd be really, really annoyed. But nothing much more you can talk about it from there, man. So no.
Yeah, it was definitely a tough one. I think even that they awarded the penalty, I think you can argue it either way, because Tarkowski has put his hand trying to get it around the back, but he does lean into the ball to block it. So I can see why the referees gave it. I can also see people say it's a harsh decision. People are saying where couldn't he put his arm? I think what he was trying to do is get it on the chest.
Yeah.
And he just didn't get across enough. So he has blocked the ball with his arm. That's what he has done. He's blocked it. It's not about putting your arm out. He has seen the flight of the ball. He's moved his arm in a way to tuck it in, and he's leaned across to block the ball. He did his job. Penalty given. And then Lucas Mecha, brilliant penalty.
Very good.
You know, right in the corner. Pickford just couldn't reach it, and that's that. And 84th minute pen winner. And Daniel Farke, who was under immense pressure at the end of the championship season. There was a lot of talk. I think the ownership was just debating whether they should actually keep him on board, because we've seen in the past with Norwich, he's taken them up, brought them down, and there was a concern that he wouldn't be able to adapt to the Premier League. So this is a great first win for him, and one that he will need to kind of take the pressure off them for the next sort of few games that they've got. And then just looking ahead to the fixtures that Leeds have coming up for them in the next sort of weeks and months. So they have all their next 5. They've got Arsenal next at the Emirates. Then they have Newcastle at home. Then they have Fulham away, Wolves away, and they bring Bournemouth back to Ellen Road. So that is a nice sort of tricky-ish run. There's games where, you know, if they can get some points against Newcastle, if they can get points against, I mean, Fulham, Wolves, and Bournemouth are the 3 games that they would want to do really well in and to pick up maybe 1 win out of those 3. Possibly 1 win, 2 draws would be brilliant. 2 wins, 1 draw would be exceptional. But just no more than 1 loss in those run of games against Arsenal, Newcastle. You're hoping for a draw. Yeah. But if you lose both of them, make it be a good performance from you, that you don't just get turned over. Yeah. But that's what they'll be looking to do. And we'll see. But like for you, looking at all 3 of the new boys up to the league, you know, we've got Leeds, we've got Sunderland and Burnley. How do you think they've all fared so far this season?
Well, they haven't been blown away. They haven't. 2 of them won, 1 of them lost. But if you look at the Spurs game, what's some of the highlights from the Spurs game? They weren't completely destroyed. For up and when, I think even when Spurs were 1-0 up for a very long time, they were creating their own chances.
They were playing nice football.
They were playing some good football. They've lost they're getting into someone experienced like Dubravka as well as a good signing as well. They've got Kyle Walker there as another good signing. He's still got something left to prove. Whether he's going to part of the England fault, I don't know. But he's still got something to give and something to offer, clearly. But they weren't blown away. Spurs were good, but they weren't torn apart. They played their own part of their game. They had some chances coming up in the second half. Even Scott Parker had praise for them as well. So Burnley, I think, will take some really good pointers from the fact that they didn't get absolutely steamrolled. So that's good. Even Leeds yesterday, all right, bar the thing, the situation with the penalty, which you can't help because, the players aren't necessarily on there to do that. But yeah, they really showed their mettle. Ellen Road, we've known historically, is a very tough place to go to. And they're going to really prey on that, that historic, that legacy, that kind of big club mentality to really ramp the point home. And you know what's, I have to be impressed with Sunderland as well. Very big statement, Granit Xhaka coming back, a maverick of a player, which, for a club who's just been promoted, they need that sense of character and mettle because there are going to be games where they're probably going to get beaten. There are going to be games that are going to be overrun, and they need someone there who knows what it means to, almost have your fingers on the trophy. Granit Xhaka, he was very close to getting that trophy at one point. So is anyone having his mentality and having his experience, we say this a lot, is going to be so vital to them as well.
And also he won the championship in Germany and the cup. So he's a league winning player that understands what it takes to go all the way. And he's also a player that, like you said, understands how things can slip away from you. And so, yeah, great experience to have in the dressing room for them.
Because at the time when he left the Gunners, his redemption was pretty much complete. So I think he's still got a little bit of unfinished, a bit of closure he wants from the Premier League. Also, to go back to Leeds, I mean, the funny thing is, if you talk to some Leeds fans, a lot of them were dubious over him staying at the club because they're well aware his history, like he said, at Norwich, got him up, got absolutely trashed to come back down again. A lot of them were really on the fence about how much they wanted him to stay. But, this is a good, a win in your first game, regardless of how it goes down, is always going to go down well. So it's not going to silence the doubters, but it's going to not give them too much of a reason to complain.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. So they have something they can build on now, and they can see how it goes going forward. Obviously, every season there are new players that come into the league that look to make a mark. And I want to switch our attention back to the Liverpool game that we mentioned at the start, where we saw they had their 3 debutants in the starting 11, Hugo Ekitike, Florian Wirtz, and Jeremy Frimpong, all starting, all looking very sharp. How impressed were you with the 3 new boys at Liverpool?
I think Wirtz was a little quiet. Could maybe expected a bit more after seeing him play in the Community Shield and some of the friendlies. But look, no one's going to be absolutely on fire every single game. So, that's understandable. But I still think there's a lot of excitement and potential around him. I think in the City game, Cherky looked good. Took his goal nicely. But again, don't think he'll play regularly. I think obviously Reinders came to the fore with a goal and assist and was very dominant. Wonderful performance. Again, the question is he going to be able to stay in the City team? If the answer is yes, then there could be quite an exciting player on hand there. But, it wouldn't surprise me after him scoring and assisting that Pep benches him next week. So that's the challenge with Pep Roulette and Manchester City.
They've hit the ground running very quickly. They've hit as you think they would with a team was just won the Premier League. Narrowly missed out on the Community Shield, which I don't think they're too concerned about. But the fact that all 3 of them have found the back of the net and put in really good performances is going to be a really big statement to the rest of the Premier League to be on watch. And what was they didn't have it their own way for the whole game. They did not have it their own way. Bournemouth came with a plan, and Semenyo had other ideas of how the game was going to go down, and maybe nearly spoiled the party. But combined with the youthful exuberance and the excitement in the club, plus with a very especially what's been going on at Liverpool so far. They got obviously the departure of Trent, which was a big blow towards a blow towards the end of the season. I think they kind of come to a reconciliation in the fact that he's given so much to the club, he couldn't really give any more, and he's off to Madrid in his new venture. Obviously, the really, really devastating news with what happens with Jota as well. Carrying that emotional load on their shoulders. So many players were close to him, like treating him like a brother and some things like that, and just how much he loved the club. To come out fighting the way they have with those 3 new signings is a big statement that's not just physically, but mentally for a lot of those players to put that on their shoulders.
And I missed one player out. Kirkes did also start. So they started 4 of their new boys. Kirkes at left back and Robertson placed him on 16.
And they seem to have slotted in quite well. Bournemouth are not an easy team, and they showed that. So they'll take a really good bit of confidence from that game. So great open. It's a great way to open the Premier League. Well, for the most part.
I think what we saw from Liverpool against Bournemouth was very similar to what we saw from Liverpool against Crystal Palace. Very nice bits of attacking play at times, looking composed and good on the ball, creative, able to link up well. Look like they're always going to score a lot of goals. Defensively looked quite frail and a little worried about the defensive setup at the moment, and whether it is just the fact that there are a few new defenders in there that we're trying to get used to the balance of, and it can throw. One defender, key defender changing in your team can always throw the balance, and we've had two in the starting five. So yeah, maybe that is playing a factor, but it'll be interesting to see how the defense come together moving forward. But I think for the foreseeable future, it's going to be, can Liverpool score more goals can Liverpool score more goals than their opponents?
Yeah, it was a brilliant start. And I think even Ekitike, he's been referred to as Baby Ishak in the online discourse. And he definitely showed his quality with his first goal. Probably should have deserved to get a second goal as well if it wasn't for that really strange handball on the halfway line, which the referee, Anthony Taylor, of course, gave nothing. Said there was nothing doing. The player handled the ball twice because he had a little flick out with the arm and thought, just for good measure, I'll just pat the ball away just to make sure.
It's like he was playing dodgeball or something. It's like he was playing a whole other sport, but Anthony Taylor being Anthony Taylor.
They said they saw no good doing. So I don't understand that one, and I think VAR in general this weekend has definitely been a bit of an interesting mixed bag, and I think it's always going to be a topic of conversation about the Premier League in terms of how VAR looks and how these things go down, because it just isn't working. They're not improving refereeing standards, and we're having the same issues game in, game out, month in, month out. But on the flip side, if you're Liverpool, they look sharp.
They do look sharp. No rust. There is no rust. Them losing another big mainstay player doesn't really seem to have slowed them down. Going forward, they're still as devastating as ever. So it's a big kind of, if anyone ever doubted that what they were probably going to do this season, be worried, because they look like they're firing on some serious cylinders.
And I think that we mentioned about Antoine Semenyo and the brilliance that he showed in the game with his 2 goals. And it's a shame that, I always think that some people don't deserve nice things or good things at all. And the fan that racially abused him, who has been arrested, he has been banned from all football stadiums at the moment, pending the full investigation and everything. I just think, to me, it's just the height of, but you have black players in your team. That's the first thing. The second thing, based on the discourse we've seen about it so far, it's like, you said the thing to the player, he asked you to repeat what you said, and then you repeat it again. What is your problem? And then also, I know that some people are saying online, it was handled right and da-da-da-da. But I do think there comes a point when I think players have the right to, and for me, I think Semenyo scoring 2 brilliant goals does not then overturn the fact that he was racially abused, and it doesn't. It's not, to me, it's not a slap in the face, or it's not. It shows his resilience in his character as an individual, but I don't think that should always be the case of, this bad thing happened and you showed strength as a player that experienced this bad thing. Well done to you. I think the guy that did it, he should never ever be allowed anywhere near football. He should stay in prison for a very long time, and I think that, to me, with everything that's happened around Liverpool, this just in general, especially this summer, but in general as a club, I just think it's just disgusting.
It's wild. It's mad, because the funny thing is, they said that if he is to be found guilty, which he probably will be, that's it for him, at least at Anfield. Apparently, he's on he's already on thin ice, enough as it is. So this is just now this is the last chip to fall where he's done it.
Well, he is currently banned from all stadiums.
Yeah.
So, and he's not welcome at any stadiums. He's not welcome near football. He can go join another club somewhere else, but he's not welcome near football. It
kind of got handled very quickly. From when it happened on Friday to where we are here we are now, it's just almost just been like, no. So in a way, it's a good thing to see that they're really clamping down on this very quickly. The players are able to speak up about it, and he's, like you said, I think it's a good point of not being just so stoic about it. If it bothers you, I've recently learned about talking about things that bother me. So, and it's a good release to kind of, it's so cathartic to just talk about it, because for all we know, it could affect him way more than we think it does. You know, and even as a professional, the money he's earning, as good a player he is, at the height of his career, it's not right that there are fans out there that still have this mentality that they can do it. Like you said, despite the fact that some of Liverpool's really good players happen to say they're also black as well. You know, what are you going to do in Canate? It's a bad game. You didn't have the best game there. Where was that energy for him? It's like, but not that you should have an energy anyway.
But also, I think I personally think we're at a point now where it's been enough times of campaigns, of slogans, of this, that, and the other. I'm tired of and bored of campaigns, of slogans, of statements, of empty platitudes. I think it's gotten to a point now where if it happens in games going forward, players should leave the pitch.
Yeah.
The game should get abandoned, and if fans are upset, then so be it. Because it's enough now. Like, okay, one guy there's lots of people that have the same views. Okay, one guy gets done, well done, but then nothing changes.
Yeah.
So I think there needs to be a case where if this happens again, and it should actually be a directive by the Premier League, which actually, even in and of itself, that it's not a directive, says a lot. And from all the things about PGMO and the referees in this country and all these crap rules they want to put in place, like we can talk about the Crystal Palace Chelsea game next, but all the things that exist, which you don't know why they're in football, but they are rules and never enforced, but then they get enforced in some games and not others. Let's do something concrete that actually makes a difference. Let's do something that's going to cost people something if they go past the line. So if you want to racially abuse someone, by all means, your team will suffer the consequences, and so be it. Because it's enough now. We're in 2025. It's been too long of the same crap from the same weak-minded people who need to just get over themselves, go touch grass outside. And if they don't like how things are, there are options they can take.
You're not welcome in the stadium.
I'll leave it at that.
I just want to make it insanely clear, without any question marks, that in 2025, racist abuse in the Premier League to Premier League players whilst doing their job is an absolute, utter disgrace. And the fact that people think that's still acceptable and a reasonable way to behave in a football stadium is beyond a joke. And it shows that the education has not quite got there. It shows that the people don't really understand the nature of how to behave in certain contexts. And in that situation, I'm glad to see the guy was arrested. I also think he should never step foot in a football stadium again. And this should be the lesson to those who think that it's okay to behave like this, because we all know it's the minority. We don't think it's the majority. But the reality is, when this behavior happens, then there needs to be a uniting around the fact that this is not acceptable behavior and a punishment to go along with it. So in my opinion, the guy needs to be banned for life. I'm very glad to see the football community coming together, and Semenyo saying that as well, and in support of him. I'm really happy to hear that was a reality. But I'm not happy to hear that this is still something that's happening in football in 2025.
But let's talk about Chelsea, Chelsea Crystal Palace. Fresh off your FIFA Club World Cup Championship win. Since you haven't been on in a long time, talk to us about that. How do you feel about being the champions of a tournament that was invented in thin air? I'm not salty. But how do you feel being FIFA Club World Champions?
I just love the whole, because I'll be brutally honest, I was only really watching the games that we were in. I mean, I didn't expect to get to the final. I just thought it's a good way to get to balance out the books, be an exhibition tool, see all these other clubs, and an exhibition tool for ourselves, and continue that winning feeling, if so, for the players, because we just came off of the Conference League. Let's continue. Let's keep on going with this and see where it goes, because little by little, we keep on winning things. Those players that want to keep on doing it even more. So you must be. But what makes me what people don't realize is that when the chips are down against us, when people are against us, is when you see the best come out of us. We weren't expected to win in 2012. We weren't expected to win in 2021, and we weren't expected to win this. And that is when you see the absolute best from us. So you must be almost, from my own shock for when we handled PSG the way that we did. I'm just like, this is not the same team that put 5 parts into and made it look so easy. They were pedestrian, they're contained, and we had the game done by a half time. I'm just thinking and more to the point, again, I'm just so proud of the players of continuing that winning feeling to then take it into the season where I would love to see some domestic cups. We haven't won the domestic cup in years. I think the last one we won was in 2018. Let's get a. All right, last year the underdogs had their time. Let's now put that now in a way. We're almost like underdogs in a way because the team is still young. This team is still growing. We've got a manager who's only been in there for a year. There was a whole new regime. Let's go and have a tear on the domestics. Carabao, FA Cup. Let's see what we can do in the Champions League. If we can get finish like top 3, and either one of the Carabao or the FA Cup, and let's say we get real far in the Champions League, I'll be really happy with that. But they need to understand that winning feeling and continue. But I was really, genuinely, it made me feel so good. So proud of those players as well. So, hey man, so summer's been very good to me so far.
No, it was definitely a good summer for you. And then you flip into the Premier League and it was just like the car felt like it stalled. Like a 0-0 at home, not what I expected to see from Chelsea. And to be honest, I want to talk about the Crystal Palace goal that was disallowed first and then get into your performance after. I have not seen... To think a rule that was put in place in 2019, which no one asked for, I barely saw goals in the prior to that, which were a major factor of needing that rule to exist. And it took until now to be enforced. And in fact, I watched a video online of other goals that have been scored. Quite a lot for Chelsea, by the way. Same tactic used, nothing given against it in the last season and beyond. But, like, what's your view on that? And I know by the letter of the law, it's the correct decision. Mark Gay pushed your blockers into the other wall, which meant he was near the wall. There wasn't a 1 meter gap. So by the law, it was the correct decision. But what do you think about it in terms of like football itself?
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even know this was a thing. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm in that camp of I didn't even know that rules even existed because VAR probably came around the same time as that rule did. And I'm just like, that's so mad confusing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna lie, it worked one in my favor because for the rest of the game, we didn't stink. We weren't terrible, but we were so stagnant from the team that did so well in pre-season. But obviously playing in pre-season against playing in the competitive Premier League are two very different experiences. So take that kind of side away from things, it could have been a very bad day in the office for us because it also, but the rule thing, I think kind of spared blushes just a little bit. Don't get me wrong, there were some good individual performances by some players. I mean, Esteval's made a really good account for himself. Caicedo's come out and done really, has kind of picked up from where he left off again, so being so consistent as well. But that free kick showed another thing as well. Number one, there needs to be more clarity on what the rule actually is. It kind of feels a bit... I'm trying to think of a really silly rule that's still in place, where it's like squatters' rules, how it's just so backward and things like, how do they have so much...
Right.
Anyway, I don't want to get into that because we'll be here until next week. So fact number one, there's that. Eze's good at free kicks, and Sanchez ain't it. Sanchez ain't it. He was great in pre-season.
He got man of the match though. I know, but which says a lot in and of itself.
It wasn't an awful game for him, and he did do well, but I'm still not convinced.
Why have you not replaced him? Because we've been talking about him from the back end of last season of not being good enough. I know in the Club World Cup he was okay, but why is he still your first choice goalkeeper, considering there's options you could go for?
Well, I think we sold... Special K was... I didn't think he was going to stay. I wanted him to stay, but I didn't think he would. The fact that he ended up at you guys, I thought was quite shocking. But he had a good season at Bournemouth. Arguably, I think we lost a really good keeper that I think could have matched and eventually taken over him, which was Petrovic. But we got good business from him. That's the thing. We're selling a lot of these kind of high, valuable players, but we're getting good business. So at the end of the day, it kind of justifies itself. But you wanted to justify itself come towards, later on in the season. With that, it's not a bluff. He clearly has some kind of thing where Enzo believes in this guy. And for all intents and purposes, he got us to a top 4 finish in the Premier League last year. And, he helped us towards... No, he didn't really play in the Conference League. But anyway, by the way, he sees something in him. He's a good shot stopper. He's just a bit... I don't know, he's getting less laps as time goes on. But if you're looking for a presence of a goalkeeper that you can really put your hands in, I'm still not really seeing it. He's not terrible, but that free kick, good as it was, another keeper saving that.
Yeah.
And I stand by that. Someone like James Trafford's getting that.
Would you put your ring in the hat for Donnarumma? Because his PSG future is officially over.
He's a winner. He's a proven winner. He's still got age. Age is still very much on his side, where he's still got more time to improve. He's won on the cup stage. He's on the club stage. He's won on the international stage. You know, he's too experienced not to have in the club. And realistically, I don't know where else he can go. He's obviously, Man City got Trafford, so he's not likely to go there. I do not want him to go to Man United because I know that's a very likely one because Onana is that I think he's done now. You know, we were in for Magnon, he couldn't have pulled out. So the goalkeeper market, unless we go for someone again who's a bit of a wild card, it's tough. I would like to go in. I'm not saying that Sanchez should be completely gone. I'm just saying that we need a strong kind of base run. You want to have two real stable keepers. At the moment, we kind of have 80% of one.
Yeah,
maybe
that's
90,
not ideal.
Which is not ideal, especially with, you know, we're talking of aspirations of going for bigger prizes in the next couple of years. He's either got to have a massive turn in form, or we get someone else.
And the big question, like I said, is who that would be. Obviously, Donnarumma is a big option. He's available, and you've got money, so you could definitely go.
He'll get back in the Champions League.
Sure,
he'll be back in the
that
Champions
will appeal.
League.
So, looking again to your performance, where do you think it all went wrong?
We miss Colwill. We are missing Colwill, and him being out for as long as he is, kind of really is gonna. We miss him, and we miss Tosin as well. Even though Tosin was probably going to be on the way out, but we just move a little bit slower when Colwill's not there. Colwill's one of those defenders that has an eye for goal. He likes to move the ball quickly to get it as far up to the attackers as possible. And with other defenders, they don't play like he does. Not bad, not terrible, but they don't have the same kind of mindset and energy that he does. And that got shown today in the team. There's a reason why Palace are doing what they're doing of late, because Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, City, Newcastle, all got one thing in common. They haven't beaten Palace in the last few games. Palace are not a joke team. At this current moment in time, they've still got their main man in Eze at the moment. And if he were to stay there, which I kind of think he should, it's obviously all right, they got demoted from the cup. I find that wild, that the fact they got demoted from the cup competition that they worked so hard to get to in the first place.
On a weird technicality, how could they have foreseen winning the trophy?
Yeah.
And then needing that owner to be out of the club by March. Like, how?
That's wild. That to me is wild. They worked their butts off to get there. They played their heart out against Man City to get that feeling. And then only a couple of months later to be told, nah, technicalities, that's it. But which I think is wild. So this team are they're not small fry. They're not playing like they're small fry either. They're a very, very well organized team. It's any wonder, like, you know, the likes of say Parma really struggled because they know they play so damn quick. They nullify any kind of attack we really had, and then the best ones we did, we kind of scuffed it and skied it. But I'm more disappointed than worried from the first game. I'm more disappointed. There were some good kind of individual performances. Some were really kind of lethargic. Like Palmer wasn't great. Enzo wasn't great. But Caicedo was. Esteval, who looks like he's got something about him. Cucurella puts in another performance like he does. You know, so look, next game West Ham, they're a bit more fragile. So I'm expecting a lot more from that game. So, but credit to Palace, they did really well. So, but we just need to up our game a little bit.
Yeah, you definitely going to need to. And you mentioned the Palace game. Do you think that's a match where you would, not Palace, West Ham? Do you think that's a game where you'd need to get maximum points to feel like the season's back on track?
I expect maximum points, even if they were to get a nick a goal. But if it was like a 2-1, I expect a bit more from considering what we just had in the way of, you know, the pre-season, how we did in the Club World Cup, and, you know, the amount of, you know, just in our attack, we've improved massively from last year. I am expecting a bit more. I think most fans will say that as well.
So your next 5, you've got obviously West Ham away, you've got Fulham at home, Brentford away, Man United away, Man United, and then you end it at home to Brighton. tricky run. But
tricky-ish run.
it's a run where if you are going to challenge for league this season, you need to get 12. You need to get maximum points out of that. 15 points.
Which I think we can. But don't be surprised if we got 10. Because did you say Man United was away?
Man United away.
We beat Man United for the first time in a long time. But sometimes, even as good as our team is going forward, there's a draw coming in there somewhere. It wouldn't be surprised if it was against like a Brighton. Would not surprise me. They're our bogey team, especially at the Amex.
So we shall see. And speaking of Manchester United, they're one of the first teams I've heard of that played really well and can beat anyone, even though they lost 1-0 at home. To an Arsenal team that's probably the worst performance I've seen us have in a long, long time. I've not seen us play football since 2002, since 22-23 season, which most people like. But if you're going to win the league, you got to win games that you're not favourite. And you got to have your players putting in a shift at the back. And Raya, Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White, Timber, Calafiori, and then Lewis Skelly when he came on. And, of course, the man in front of them all in Zubimendi, they put in a shift for the team. They put in... And the captain as well. I think it was a game when I think it's a tale of... You can tell we're shifting our way of playing. We've gone from a team that was very slow, methodical last season, boring at times, frustrating at times, to a team that's trying to play a bit quicker. But not everyone's on the same wavelengths yet. Odegaard was doing what I would love to see him do. Get the ball, driving forward, trying to make things happen. Some of his final passes weren't quite there. They were just a bit off, or the runs around him wasn't quite right. But he was trying to create. I think Saka had a quiet game by his standards. I think Martinelli had a frustrating game. Again, some good stuff, but a lot of things that just not quite what we needed. We need more from him now. I think Gyökeres for a debut, I think he didn't have a shot, which for a striker is ridiculous. However, he showed enough for me that he will be a handful for defences. Well, there's a funny gif of him bodying De Ligt in the corner. I just laugh about it. But, he battled really well. He did do a lot of good stuff, but I want my striker getting shots off. And that's the issue behind him. And it's been the issue last season is the lack of creativity from Arsenal's midfield. And it's a thing that we need to put right against Leeds at the weekend, because that's the game where I think the Man United game, I think some fan sentiment online is excessive. Yes, I would have wanted a better performance, but we don't win at Old Trafford often. Something about that stadium stops us winning. So we did it. Let's take that and let's build on that.
It's a grind for it.
And let's refine what we need to refine and get better. But how do you look at that game between Arsenal and Man United?
I mean, defensively, it shows you why you were you got the Golden Glove and I think you had the best defense last year.
Or second best defense.
Second best defense, and you're showing why you had it, because like you said, all those defenders put in absolute work. Because for all the stick we give Man United, they're all over you. They were all over, and it was kind of frustrating. I saw some of the highlights the other day, where how at least one or two nose shots didn't find a way through, apart from, say, a block, a bad shot, poor decision on their part, or Raya making a really good save. Signings in, all right, but then get a goal. But players like, Cunha couldn't look back and be like, he made a good account for himself. He was frustrating. And Buemo looks like he's going to be a real issue. He was absolutely everywhere, bar from some decision-making problems. It could have been an on goal. Really, really could have been in. But, they did. This has been a really down time for Man United. Not since even when Moyes was there has it been this bad, because, they came off the final losing in a very poor final between two very poor teams at the time. He's addressed the issues. He's got the players in that he wanted. He's still got a few players there from way back when. I mean, when Maguire came on, I was like, oh yeah, here comes his striker or whatever, which is wild. But they're not going to feel and they're not going to feel better until they get that first win. It's not going to start, because they've got a big squad, a lot of talent here, there, and everywhere. But no, it still doesn't feel like something that's cohesive. It just kind of felt like they were just peppering all over. The fact that Mount started was just like, what?
He's one of their key players.
He's going to be, and if he can get his fitness, if he can get his act together, and actually find that form he had when Tuchel had him, that's another really good option for them to have. I'm not saying they're going to be, fighting for no leagues or anything like that, but they're going to be pushing further than when they finished 15th last year. So, but just like you said, some of these games you got to win ugly. You got to grind out, and sometimes you're not going to get the performance you wanted. But as the table doesn't rate on performances, the table rates on wins and points and draws and stuff like that. So the fact that you got yours off the mark, then you just got to refine it from there.
And that's what's important for us. I think we know we've got work to do. We know this is not the way we want our games to go, to be that open. But at the same time, I think to get the most out of our superstar striker, we're going to need to be a bit more open and take a few more risks compared to usual. So I'm curious to see how it's all going to balance out. And I know Arteta's going to work on with the boys this week in training to refine the things that weren't good. He's under a lot of pressure this season from himself. Maybe not the board, like they're saying publicly, but they've invested a lot of money over the years. I know there's a bit of a fan meltdown online right now about Eze potentially going to Spurs, and the fact that we should really be, and there's still time, Arsenal, we should really be putting our hat in the ring and making that happen, because he would definitely transform our left wing. I looked at how Matheus Cunha played, and I thought, imagine if he'd come across and playing him left side instead of Martinelli, who I just think has just regressed as a player. I want to talk about that as well, because I think player development is a weird one, where some players, like we know, like some people like Drogba, like Giroud, they peak and blossom late in their careers. Some players like your Rooneys, your Sterlings, they blossom really early, and then they kind of, once they get close to 30, they sort of have a big drop off because they've been playing at a high level for so long. It's very rare to have the likes of Ronaldo and Messi that have just been consistent throughout all the ages. And I mean, obviously, they're not what they used to be, but they still are very, very effective players that can chase matches on their own. But when you look at a player like Martinelli, who a couple of years ago, we were looking at him and Saka and thinking, who's going to have the bigger growth? Because they were really neck and neck. And at times, he was ahead of Saka a little bit in his development. Right now, he's nowhere near him, and he's not even close. What do you think is the fundamental issue there, and how can he really seize the moment of this season? Because we know the club like him. The coach clearly likes him, otherwise we would have signed a replacement already. But people are getting tired of the lack of output, of the predictable running into the corner, of the lack of, where is the Joga Bonito in his game?
That's a good one, because again, if it was another club, he probably would have been gone maybe 2 seasons ago. But when it's kind of like he's taking them under his wing a little bit, because he was there from like Emery day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He was there from Emery days and seeing the potential. Because I remember when he was young, he was electric, he was speedy, he was fast, he was fearless. I know he had that injury, it kind of like regressed. And it always seems to be your club where you have a really good player, has so much promise, they have an injury, and it's almost as if they're kind of holding back a couple of years. But you reflect and you reminisce on the times where it's like, I remember what this player was like when they're really going and shifting through the gears and having no kind of fear. I mean, we keep on saying that this because it's a last chance saloon, because he's been in the league long enough, he's been in Arsenal long enough to know that from when you were there, when you were teetering with 4th, 5th, to where you are now, the game has moved on big time. And he needs to start finding, or I don't know what he needs to do in training, whether he's got to do some kind of mental help or therapy or this or something there where he rediscovers that form that he had that made him such a favourite with the club. And he's still a favourite with the club. But having favourites and that sentiment and being nostalgic like that doesn't guarantee cups. It doesn't guarantee trophies. And like you said, considering at one point he was on par with Saka, could you imagine having 2 players of that calibre in your squad at the same time? It's great. And then we had that one good flourish when you very nearly won the league that year, but that was 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago now. He needs to, it's almost as if he needs competition. It almost as if he needs someone there to kind of deputise him for a bit. Or maybe Arteta just needs to drop him for a bit. Maybe he just needs to drop him and just, realise that I love you, but I've got people on my neck and I'm putting it out there for you. Don't let people out on my neck, man, because I'm suffering here, I'm dying here. So
I think the game against Leeds at the weekend. I don't want to say it's a pivotal moment in his Arsenal career, but I go back to the Bayern Munich Champions League semi-final 2 seasons back when we got knocked out, or quarterfinal got knocked out, and the club said we are missing that game breaker player, that player that can change a tie on their own. We still haven't signed that player. You could argue Gyökeres is that guy, but I don't see that player in the Arsenal squad outside of Saka, and he was there anyway. Yeah. So there's a gap missing in the team, which is why a lot of fans were excited about the prospect of us bringing in Eze this summer. Still time Arsenal, but it hasn't happened yet. And so you're looking, thinking, well, where else could they look to make that signing? There's players like Lookman, who was due to go to, I think, Inter. That move has broken down. He's on the market. You know, there's that people talk about Rafael Leao, and he has very much positive attributes going forward, but he's also a very languid player, and he might frustrate a lot more than he delights. There's obviously the big talk about Rodrigo and what could happen there. There are options of people. There's also younger guys if you want to go to Lyon. They've got Malik Fofana. If you want to go to... There's players around the world that could... There's available players that could make a difference. Eze is right there. Started in Arsenal Academy. Arsenal fan. Go get him. Semenyo at Bournemouth is right there. I know he's signed a new contract, but who knows what's in that contract. Go chuck some money and see what happens. There's options to upgrade on Martinelli, and I like him. Trossard, you can clearly tell, is on his way out because he's not played much. Didn't come off the bench the other day. Madueke, we will see. Me personally, I would probably start Madueke against Leeds at the weekend because I just want to see something different. Martinelli does a lot of great defensive work for the team, but we didn't buy him to be a water boy. We didn't buy him to be doing shuttle runs up and down the pitch to help. We need him to do stuff in the final third because we've got a striker now that is hungry to show that he's ready for this level. We don't need any parts of the puzzle holding him back. You've got a player in Saka who we've still got contract talks ongoing. He hasn't committed yet. We need to show those guys that we're serious.
Yeah.
So, you know, I want the club to do something serious. I want Martinelli to click and it to fly. But if it's not going to click, then we need to look at bringing in someone who can do the job the way we need it to be done and say, thanks, Martinelli, for your time and your service, but we're going to go in a different direction now. Yeah. And that's okay. It's not a crime.
It is okay because I know, you know, a lot of like clubs, they hold on to players so dearly because they know what's possible. They know what they can do. But when other clubs around you are moving, and we saw this with, we used to talk about this with Newcastle, and teams like your Brightons and your Palaces, you know, are moving in a way that's so different. Obviously now Newcastle caught up, and even Palace are kind of there now. They're always looking to be moving up. Even your main two competitors on the weekend, we're showing with not just Liverpool, but also Man City.
4-0 win, they're back.
And that was a statement win. They've made signings. They've let go of some Wood and Grealish, which wasn't clicking there anymore. They got in. I mean, this is even though we lost, De Bruyne's gone, but then they moved in Bernardo Silva and they made all the difference. They've still got Rodri to come back at some point.
You know, Reinders, Cherky in the midfield. Yeah. Serious problems they're going to cause.
And look, what looks to be a very good keeper in James Trafford, who's so young. I mean, Ederson might be second fiddle, but you don't know what's going on with him.
And they're looking at Donnarumma as well.
And then also looking at Donnarumma, Liverpool and Man City have made big statements over the summer so far, and in their first game, put 4 past their opposition. You know, and Wolves were showing some flourishes of doing something, but as soon as that first goal went in, that was it. One-way traffic. So what you don't want to happen is to be left behind early on when you still got a couple little holes to fill in, because they look like all they're really waiting on is some returning players, like some players coming from injury or possibly another sign. And let's not forget that Liverpool is still on. The Isak drama is not done yet.
It's not done.
It's not done. So if you need to start marshalling your positions and be like, they're doing this, we need to do this.
It's a big time for the North London club. So Kroenkes, please, like Berta has done a good job so far, but the job's not done. It's like Kobe Mead once says, the job's not done. Why are we celebrating? Get it over the line. We need that X Factor player to help bring everything forward. So we couldn't wrap up the podcast without getting the Arsenal thought on the weekend. We'll talk about the game against Man United at Old Trafford. Craig, what are your thoughts on the performance from the team?
It was a smash and grab. We went there, got the win. had to defend for the whole. For after we scored the goal, we were defending for our lives. It was very difficult at times to watch, very cringeworthy, like very difficult. I was worried that we were going to concede a goal, but luckily David Rail was our saviour in goal, saved us from losing the game. So well done to him and Gabriel and Saliba as well.
And then when you think about the match, obviously we had the debut of Gyökeres, we had Madueke came off the bench. How do you think that went? And do you think people are being too quick to write him off for his performance?
It's only one game, you can't write him off after one game. It's not like he's played 10 games or 20 games or 30 games, then you can have an opinion. I think one game fans need to be more patient and give him time. And we're not giving him any service anyway for him to even feed off anyway, so he has to be feed on scraps. So yeah, on another day he'll get goals, so I'm not worried about that.
What most impressed you about the game?
I have to say, we've been to Old Trafford so many times in the past, and we've been battered a couple of times, really battered a couple of times. I thought this time we showed great resilience, and we showed good fight and good passion not to lose the game. It wasn't a great game for Arsenal, but we got the 3 points. That's the most important thing, getting the 3 points and getting out of there. Move on to the next game and improve the team, and the game will get better, and the players would improve, and the performances would improve.
And do you think you've seen signs of a change in the style of football from that match? Because there's a lot of talk at the back end of last season about how Arsenal have been playing, wanting to see us change to a style that's similar to what we did in the 22-23 season and the 23-24 season. Do you think you saw that in this first match?
Not really, no. I didn't see that at all. I just saw it was the same old Arsenal's last season. We'll score one goal and park the bus, not going for a second and third goal. But I think the reason why we had to do that on Sunday because Man United were pressing us high up the pitch. Within Burmo, they had Mason Mount in the first half, and they had Cunha. So they were when Diallo came on as well, they were just pressing us on the front. So they're pressing us so high up that every time they got the ball in the midfield, they were just playing the ball to the wingers, and they were taking us on and putting more pressure on us to score a goal. So I thought there's certain things that need to be changed, that tactics need to be tweaked a little bit, but I feel that after a while we should be all right. Once we get a couple of games in and to get the game rhythm right, and the players in the right system, and more service to our front players, then I think we'll score goals and it'll be a very entertaining season.
And of course, we've got the big match coming up at the weekend. I say big match. It's the first home game of the season. Leeds United coming, their first game back in the second game back in the Premier League, but their first time playing us for a little while. It's been a while since they've been in the league. But how do you think that game's going to go, and what do you want to see from the team, especially in front of the home fans for the first time?
I'd like to see Gyökeres get off the mark. I'd like to see Saka get a goal. I'd like to see Odegaard get a goal. I'd like to see I just want to see more creativity and more opportunities taken, more shots on target. Just go out there and give Leeds a game. Give Leeds a great game, because Leeds is one team that could cause us problems. Like Championship teams who come from the Championship normally, and they come up, they always got a point to prove. I know Leeds beat Everton the other day, so they're going to be up for the game. So we need to make sure from minute 1 till minute 90 or 94, how long minutes we've got in the game, that we're on it from day one. Don't drop intensity. Straight going for as much goals as we can in the first half. Kill the game off early so you can rotate the squad, give other players who need minutes and time minutes on the pitch. So yeah. And
of course, there's the big breaking news that's coming out. Well, it's been coming out today about Eberechi Eze, who looks set to go to Spurs, but as is often the case, sorry Tottenham, he's now looking to be all set to join Arsenal. First off, what do you think about that transfer?
I feel it's going to be a great transfer for us. We need somebody who can score goals on a low block. We've struggled against teams on low blocks, and I feel like he can unlock defences, and he can even change formation as well. And we can even rest Odegaard in some games as well. If it's not working, you can bring him on, or you can rotate it with Martinelli and Trossard. There's a lot of ways we can play with Eze in our team, and I think he'll do well at Arsenal. He's an Arsenal fan as well. Was in the academy many years ago, didn't work out for him then, but now it's going to work out for him now because he's older, he's mature, He's at the right age, 27, peak year of his career, peak years of his footballing career. So I feel that we have nothing to worry about. I feel that once we get him signed on the line, he'll be scoring goals for us, and that's what I want. That's what I'm happy about right now.
What do you think's the part of his game that you're most excited to see him bring to Arsenal?
His flair and his finishing. The guy can score a free kick. When was the last time he scored a free kick? Except from Declan Rice against Real Madrid last season. I feel like his free kicks, his dribbling ability, he's got flair about him. He's got that Brazilian type of flair about him where he can dribble past a man, do a trick in the right areas. He'll bring excitement off us fans in the stadium. And some games he'll get the ball doing cheeky nutmeg or something and get us fans all up like, yeah, like I can't believe he's done that. So that's the type of player we haven't had in our team in a long, long time.
Yeah, he's definitely going to bring a lot to the team, and I'm excited to see when it all comes together. I think he's going to play for Palace first in their Europa Conference qualifier, and then he'll have the send-off with them, and then he'll come and join us for the weekend's game. I guess one final thing for you. Obviously, we've seen a lot of talk about Alexander Isak and the situation at Newcastle. Like, what's your thoughts on how that whole thing is playing out?
I feel that Newcastle and Alexander Isak had a gentleman's agreement last season they could leave in the summer. I thought they had it last season. I feel like they said if you win us a trophy and you get a Champions League football, you can leave. I think maybe Newcastle are kind of broken that promise. Maybe they don't want to sell to a direct rival. Maybe they thought if we buy a replacement player in early in the window, then maybe we can convince him to stay, but it didn't work out. So now he's digging his heels and saying that they're broken promises and all that. So I feel that at the moment, like, there's only going to be one winner at the end of the day out of this situation. So either the player's going to dig his heels and not play, or the club are going to end up not taking a loss, but they're going to have to make a decision quickly. There's only 11 days left until the window closes. So either Newcastle sell, or Isak has to stay in the reserves until January or whenever, or he's going to have to do some dramatic action to leave the club.
Yeah, I feel like the statements he made and Newcastle's response shows that their relationship is completely broken down. Newcastle are under no obligation to sell, and maybe they feel like the way things have been conducted from Liverpool's side or from Isak's side has just put them off even wanting to entertain the conversation. I think if you look at the Ekitike transfer as well, that may have also pushed them over the edge because they looked like they wanted to bring him in and a deal almost done. Liverpool came in, a whole different story. So maybe they feel like they don't owe Liverpool or even the player something more. But could you see a path forward for Isak at Newcastle? Or do you think of what's been said, how he's been carrying on? Because we look at Gyökeres's move to Arsenal and he did also go on strike a little bit. He also refused to return to training. He made it very clear that he was set to move. I think there's things that were done by his agent that made the deal work out in making concessions on his agent fee, in making sure that by the adjustments that they made, it meant that the total financial package still met the amount Sporting wanted in the beginning. But it just meant that Arsenal ended up spending less because we didn't have to also add on agent fees and the rest. But what can you see being the next steps of Isak and Newcastle?
I don't think it's going to be there by the end of this transfer window. I think he might be gone, but I don't think they're going to sell him to Liverpool. They might sell him abroad.
And if that happens, we'll be eager to see what happens. But we shall see. We shall see. As we get close to wrapping things up, what is your hot take for the week or even for the season?
Hot take for the season. We're going to see two clubs that you don't expect in relegation to be in relegation.
Are you going to name them or leaving it open-ended?
I'm leaving it open-ended.
Okay.
This season, we're not going to see, like, it wasn't like last year where the three teams that came up were like, they were absolutely hopeless. And pretty much relegation was decided by March. We're going to see there's going to be a couple of shockers in this relegation. I think there's going to be some big surprises when it comes to relegation.
I think Wolves cemented my concern that they could struggle. I think Everton obviously always start badly, but was dreadful against Leeds, and Leeds kind of really dominated that game. So I'd fear for Everton and their start to the season. Leeds looked pretty good for a newly promoted team. Sunderland, fantastic. West Ham, obviously very concerning start to the season against newly promoted Sunderland. But, we did say that Sunderland could be, fired up and ready for that game. So, playing at home, playing first game back in the Premier League in a while, all these new signings, a new era for Sunderland. And clearly they were fired up for the first game. I still think they'll struggle, but yes, I think that is a reasonable reflection on a few of my hot takes of teams that struggle.
My last question for you is, what's your prediction? Because we asked everyone the other day to say what they think their top scorers are going to be. So who's your prediction for top goal scorers? And top goal scorers in the league. And then after that, what's your prediction for number of goals scored by Ekitike, Gyökeres, João Pedro, and Sesko? I'm naming those four particularly.
Sesko, Pedro, Gyökeres,
Ekitike.
and Ekitike.
But first off, what's the top goal scorers in the league? Your top 3 or top 4, top 5 goal scorers?
Top 5. I can see Haaland returning to form. Mm-hmm. I can see him coming back. In no particular order. I don't know who he's going to get, but I'm going to see Haaland there. I think Salah's going to be back in there just because it's Salah. That's what he does. Ekitike looking like he could do something as well. I'm trying to think of other strikers, like a surprise kind of. Because last year we had Wood, but I don't know if he's going to do it again.
You got 2 at the weekend?
He did get 2. He's already off the mark. So Salah, Ekitike, Haaland. I can see Gyökeres being a bit of a dark horse, maybe like good 17, 18, somewhere like just kicking along the line. It's going to be between Sesko and João Pedro. Because I think João Pedro's got... I'll be happy if he got like around 17, 16, 17, even 15. So there's a 5 I'm going to think are going to be around, because it's very kind of early to tell, because some of them... Because I don't know where he's at. I don't know where he's going to end up.
Yeah, because obviously if he goes to Liverpool, then he'll definitely be in that ranking. If he says Newcastle and doesn't play, obviously he won't. Okay, so then so the other 5, how do you rank them in terms of their? But also, it's interesting with João Pedro. He's never scored more than 10 Premier League goals. The most he got was 10 last season. So we'll see if he can make the big jump. But what's your take for the other 5? So how many goals do you think Ekitike is going to get? Sesko, João Pedro, and Victor Gyökeres?
Ekitike, I could say about 15.
Okay.
Sesko, I could see even getting about 13. Mm-hmm. But they'll be very helpful goals. So it's Ekitike and Sesko gone. Gyökeres, I'm going to say about 17, 18. Mm-hmm. I think he'll get a really good return on his decent return this first season. And yeah, I think João Pedro is probably going to get roughly something similar. I'd be happy if minimum with 15. Minimum happy, because it's been a while since we've had a striker. I think the last striker we got anyone near that was Jackson, and that was frustration. That was just pure frustration, because he could have got more. He should have got more.
Yeah, but he was so wasteful.
He's just so, it's no one on the books. But yeah, I think that's what's going to be the numbers. But yeah, but I think I can't, until Isak comes back in whatever shape or form. I can see Salah being back there again, and I think Haaland's going to have another
crazy season.
I don't know if he's going to do the crazy numbers he did in his first season, but he's going to get more than 20.
Well, on that note, it's been a very good return to the league. There's lots to talk about, lots to happen. Referees, PGML, sort it out. We don't want another week of nonsense. Arsenal, you know what you need to do against Leeds. Fix up, look sharp, and get your careers off the mark. See you all next time.
Peace.